Okay, now we're going to talk about the APSR. The APSR is initiated when the ship's availability is put into NMD by the government. So what you have to do once it's put into the availability, once the availability is put into NMD, you have to go into ShipMD, and you're going to go to the APS. So the APS develops or builds the APSR. So you go into the APS module, you hit the edit CNO avails, and this is where you start. Okay, you're going to click new. In our case, we are new, and we're going to the SSP number. You get that from your TI, the CVN DDG 72, Marmite 26. So you input this data, the boat name, sister ship will come in later. You'll write a PCFR and identify the sister for that. The veil type. So you want to plug in all this data. APS, port engineer, PM, gap them. Pull these milestone dates off your TI, input those. Publish date, CD delivery date. Then you get to your milestone and lock date, government lock dates, input those from your technical instruction. Ship check avail dates, input those. You get those from VSB. You can get those from the availability schedule, or you can get those from the CMAV planner. The John, this is when the John is received. You input the John number and the date it's received. As you can see, there's a dry dock date when a dry dock is applicable to the avail. When you have a supplemental work package, you plug in the supplemental work items or dates. So after you finish the edit and fill in the edit screen, then you'll want to go to the weekly brief input screen. And your boat should show up once you put it in as new. And you're going to want to fill in this data right here, your projected WNs, your supplemental. There were no supplemental. There's no supplemental package. This comes from our duration analysis people. We get those numbers and input those duration dates. And your projected WIs. Keep up with your PCFR count, how many are written and how many are answered. And what is your CNA status? Is this a MRQT boat? You want to check yes or no. And then any additional comments that our senior manager might want to know. For example, if a milestone dates were pushed to the right or the left. Trends within the planning. We have duration trends, ship alt trends, ship check trends. And once all that is built and put in there, then you get what looks like this, the APSR. Okay? Boat name, hull number, SSP number. There's the avail dates. There's your projections that you put in. There's your PCFR data you keep up with. The LLTM information is populated from the material part of ShipMD. So you shouldn't have to do any populating here. These dates are populated from when you put the edit dates in. When you built it, you populated these dates. Of course, you populated all your milestone dates. And your ship checkers, your ship check organization, the data they input populates this, the ship check dates. And you can see, or the ship check data, and you can see how many ship checks and how many are left or outstanding. There's your dry dock dates when the dry dock is applicable. The John received. Okay, and then this is the important part you're interested in. As you can see, the Mahan is working towards a post-award miles lock. So as we go through, when WNs come in, I'm going to show you. When tasking memos come in, they're going to show up on this side of your screen in the WN milestone assignment side. Once they show up here, you're going to highlight them, and then you're going to pick the milestone they go to, and you're going to say assign milestone, and then they're going to move over to here. As you can see, here's the DDG 74 we're working. 72. All right. And then also what you want to pay attention to on this assignment screen is you want to pay attention to what's called multiples. So what that means, let's see if I can find one for you. Okay. So you see this boat, DDG 111, has one multiple. Well, so what that means is they have WNs. This is the list of your WNs, and they have WNs. Here's your WIs, 123.10.001. See how that WN is assigned to the 100% milestone? Well, also, same spec. You've got some assigned to the 80% milestone. So what you want to do is make sure this WI 123.10.001, all these WNs should be assigned to one milestone. So in this case, I see a 100% milestone right here. You want to move all of these to the 100% milestone. So that's what the duplicate is. It tells you you got a spec that is on two milestones. It's on the 100% milestone and it's on the 80% milestone. So you have to get all these WNs on the same milestone. So you need to pay attention to that. And this screen over here gives you the status of your WNs and the status of your WIs, where they're at in NMD. Okay? Also, sometimes what you'll see some leftover WNs, and you can see what day they came over. These came over on 2/10, but nobody has assigned them a milestone. So probably what's happened is these WNs are probably going to go back. So let's go back to the government. So let's look at DDG 111's report. DDG 111. And you can see those WNs that were on the left-hand side of the screen. They were not assigned to a milestone. There were two of them. Here they are right here. Okay, on the APSR, and the APSR says WNs not assigned to a milestone, which are two, are government planned. Okay, sometimes you'll see them over there and they're being returned to the government. So you'll have that comment, WNs not assigned to a milestone are being returned to the government. But in this case, these two, because everything should be assigned to a milestone. As soon as they come in, it's the APS's responsibility to assign them to a milestone. Okay? So with that said, what we really see here is we see how many WNs are assigned to each milestone. and we see how many WIs are being worked in each milestone. In this case, this is the spruance. Everything is in approved status. So let's go back to our Mahan. Okay, here's our Mahan. So we see our Mahan is working on their post-award. So that means everything in these milestones, 50, 80, and 100%, should be verified or higher. And we look at them, 50, 80, and 100%. They're all approved for award. So they're in the right, everything looks good. Okay? So then we get to post-award. We look at the status of our WIs in post-award. And we can see we've got 1 in preliminary, we've got 6 in planning floor review, and 4 in planning for complete, 8 in verified, and 2 in approved. Okay, so QED has got 11 specs they're working on, and there's 10 specs in the government's hands. So the government has these verified and approved. QED is responsible for preliminary review and complete. Okay, so that's what this APSR tells us. This APR is distributed weekly on Wednesdays to our senior managers so that they can see how planning is progressing. Once a month, there's a senior leadership meeting that the APSs will discuss this APSR with senior leadership. Okay, so with the APSR comes what's called a plan versus actual graph. This is provided by another department. As you can see, based on what you put on the APSR is what these dotted lines illustrate based on our projections. Black line is typically WNs as they come in from the government. So this black line belongs to the government. The purple line is the status of the WIs. Okay. The dotted line is the projection. The solid line is the actuals. So what happens is we put in a projection and there's a calculation. A computer puts the WNs in the percentage where they belong. And what you want to see here is you want to see this solid line always stay above the dotted line. If it stays above the dotted line, that means you're on track or ahead of the schedule. When it goes below the dotted line, that means you're behind in your planning effort. So what this tells me is the government has given us a lot of WNs right up front. They've done good, but then they backed off and they hadn't given us any WNs here. So they got behind schedule, and then they got back on track, a little bit behind schedule, and then back on track. All right, so what the purple line tells us is, as you can see, the dotted line shows we're a little bit behind on getting WIs to the government. So we don't start getting ahead of the game till early April, and that's where the government's here. But there's why haven't we gotten these to the government? Okay, so then we picked up the pace. We're ahead of the schedule, and we stay ahead of schedule for a while. But you can see we got behind here, and we added some extra people on this to get us to where we wanted to go. Okay, so this is the plan versus actual graph. It comes out weekly with the APSR. All right. So the next thing I want to show you with this APSR is what we call the APSR script. So the APS has to discuss this report to senior management on the first Wednesday of every month. So with that said, we have what's called an APSR script. All right, and you basically fill in the blanks. Everybody needs to be telling senior leadership the same thing when we discuss these APSRs. So this is the script you fill out, and this is what you tell the senior management when you go up to the podium. Okay, one thing you need to remember, do not read this script. you need to talk about this script like you know exactly what's going on with your boat. Okay? So you start out with, good afternoon, Mr. Jones. Then for this would be USS Mahan. I hold us on track to meet the milestone of, so this would, in this case, this would be post-award. So what you do before Wednesday, you fill this script out and you give it to your APM for his review. So for the USS, I hold us on track for the post-award milestone on 4/16/26. We've received, so you go down here and you'll see 1,058 WNs. 58 WNs of the projected 1,061. There's your projection. Okay. We have created, how many WIs have been created? We have created 315 WIs. The total number right here. For the milestone, okay, so here is where you're just talking about the milestone you're working. All right, we're working the post-award milestone. We come down here, of the 21 WIs for the post-award milestone, we have how many WIs in various stages of planning, and how many, and that's where this number comes in. We have 11. QED has 11, government has 10. We have 11 in various stages of planning and 10 sent to the government. Okay? And that's what this illustration right here gives you. All right, then you need to talk about ship check status. You need to talk about outstanding ship checks. There are 27 outstanding ship checks, and those are being planned to be accomplished at the next ship check window on. So you look at here, and if, as you can see, we are within this window, so you put between and 4-3. So you want to tell him how many ship checks are outstanding and when you plan to accomplish them. Okay? And then as you can see right here, if no ship check dates exist, discuss your PCFR for sister ship checks or an ACONUS plan. Okay? So if there is no ship check dates right here, you need to discuss the yellow information in this part. Okay, long lead time material. Okay, this is where we currently have 381 line items of material, of which how many have been entered into MRQT? 373 have been entered, with how many are outstanding? 8 remaining line items. We have 8, so we would put 8 right there. All right, and then from there, your last thing is, pending any questions, this concludes my brief for the USS Mahan. All right, and like I said, you fill this out. This is your guide when you're briefing senior leadership about the APSR, but do not read it. Talk about it as if you know exactly what you're talking about and you're on top of everything with your job. Okay? So that includes the discussion on the APSR and the APSR script and the plan versus actual graph.